Metric flasks and pipettes are used for precisely measuring out solutions. Both only hold one volume of liquid, indicated by the calibration mark. Neither of these glassware are used to store liquids. At all times, you should be wearing your safety goggles and proper attire. You will be dealing with glassware, so be careful not to break or drop it. To use a pipette bulb, press A to expel the air from the bulb, press S to suck up the liquid into the pipette, and press E to expel liquid from the pipette. This is sodium chloride, volumetric flasks, beakers, a reusable pipette, volumetric pipettes, and a pipette bulb.
So we're going to take the 29.21 grams of sodium chloride salt and put it in the 250 milliliter volumetric flask, making sure to get all of it in. We're going to fill the 250 milliliter volumetric flask with DI water. To make sure that we don't fill it past the line, once we start to get close to it, we're going to use a reusable pipette to fill it to the line so we get it as exact as possible. And we're going to take the stopper and put it in the volumetric flask, holding it like this to make sure that the stopper, it won't come off and we won't spill the solution. And we're just going to invert it to mix it all. Move the 250 milliliter salt water from the volumetric flask to the 250 milliliter beaker, because you don't store anything in the volumetric flask, they're just for mixing. We're going to transfer 50 milliliters of the solution to the 50 milliliter volumetric flask. Like we did last time, we're going to use a pipette to get it close to the line on the flask. A 10 milliliter volumetric pipette, and we're gonna take 10 milliliters of the solution and put it into our 10 milliliter beaker. So we're going to clean out the inside of the volumetric pipette with DI water by doing the same process we did to get water out of the volumetric flask, except it doesn't need to be exactly to the line because this is just to clean it. And we're going to dispose of the DI water used to clean it in our liquid waste beaker. We're going to now take 10 milliliters of DI water and put it into our volumetric flask that we are making the cereal dilution in. And when you're done, again, you expel the water into the volumetric flask. We're then going to take the stopper and put it on the volumetric flask and invert it similarly to when we were making the solution. Once the solution is mixed, we're going to use the same 10 milliliter volumetric pipette and gather 10 milliliters of the new dilution. We're going to put this into our second beaker. And we will label this beaker A for dilution A. And we're just going to repeat the same process we did for the first dilution. And we will repeat this process one more time for our third and final dilution.
Since this is a saltwater solution, we can pour these directly into the sink. However, if you have anything else that needs to be properly disposed of, it can be put in either a non-hazardous waste container or a hazardous waste container. To clean out volumetric flasks, fill them with DI water. Don't go too fast or you may splash it all over the place. I wouldn't know from personal experience. Invert the flask to clean out everything. When you think you've inverted it enough, take the stopper off and pour it down the drain. To clean out the volumetric pipettes, you can use the tap water if the sink is large enough, and do a final rinse with DI. Make sure to never leave it to dry like this, or it could fall over and break and you're $20 in debt.